Alright, so watch Spiral, the Saw thing. And this one's not bad. It does feel a little bit like, I guess you would say, like a refresh of the series, the franchise, or whatever not. Cause like, I think I saw someone online said like, yeah, they looked at the cleanness of Jigsaw and was like, no, we gotta get back down to like grittiness, which it is kind of what the series is. And I love the first Saw movie. I remember seeing that in theaters. I was surprised by, like, I guess you would say, the twist ending, that kind of stuff. Had the same reaction as Lee Winnell character Adam, just like the whole time when the ending was happening. Then I saw the second movie in theaters, saw the third one in theaters, and then I just stopped. And then I think, like, I ended up binging 4, 5, and 6, like later whenever 7 came out, the final one. Then I obviously watched that, and then Jigsaw came out, and I watched it not when it came out, but like within the year. And I was, just because I'm a fan of the Saw stuff, and when you're up to like almost 10 movies, pretty much you're with like what the Final Destination movies, Friday the 13th, the Nightmare, Halloween, all that stuff. After a while, you're so distant from the original that it's just like you watch the people die, you don't really care about the storyline. You know what I mean? Like, you just kind of be like, how are these dumbasses gonna die? That's the whole point of watching these movies. And how are they all connected? That's also, like, the thing. This one, I like that, Chris Rock is involved, so, like, they were, like, a little, like angry, funny moments, very Chris Rock humor. A lot of it felt very, like, ad-lib from Chris Rock, just again, the way how he delivers a line and the way how he normally kind of like throws a joke out there, all that stuff. Not a complaint. It felt like it was like like a refresher thing. It wasn't just like I like that the movie wasn't just like people in the traps. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, like all the other movies, it's like there's always like police involved in trying to find the main people so they don't die, and then, oh my god, some of them are actually involved in the thing, But this one, it's like you're focused on the main character, which is Chris Rock, who is the police officer, who, is funny enough, like the good cop, the one and only good cop, and of course, we all know there's really no such thing as good cops, because good cops either get fired or, they, like him, he, had people betray him, backup didn't come for him, all that stuff, because he, I guess you would say, I don't know if you would say ratted out, but, he pretty much just like, this guy's a bad cop. And so, whatchamacallit, so you're following him while suddenly, like, Jigsaw comes back, and all the traps are just, like, they're very much like the later traps, it's not Jigsaw traps, because even like his traps via the first movie, second movie, a little bit of the third movie, when Jigsaw was still alive, there's still a way to get out of it, Not always do you do irreparable harm to yourself, not always, most of the time, but not always. Whereas the later ones, when it was Casas Mandalore's character and the other people, like when the non-Jigsaw people were making the traps, it was pretty much, or like, yeah, when Amanda did the trap for, what's her name from Starship Troopers, there was no way to actually get out of it. It was just pretty much they wanted to see you kind of, like, kill yourself, but like, you're just gonna be, like, deformed, you're gonna be fucked, there was no way out kind of stuff. Yeah, because, like, what was it, which Saw was it where, like, people were, like, hacking off limbs because you had to, like, hit a bunch of weight. They were, like, chopping off the arm, chopping off, that kind of stuff. Like, that kind of stuff where it's just like, oh, God. Like, before, I was just covered in this goo, just trying to put in, like, a combination, all this, I'm lit on fire and I died, Not all irreparable. I'm not helping my case here, but with these traps, it was just kind of like, it's not even the Jigsaw voice, of course, because it's not Jigsaw. It's like someone with a voice changer, and it was just like, it's like, hello, this is my voice. oh, I want to play a game. And it's like, I'm not really scared by that. You know, like the Jigsaw, like, hello, I want to play a game. And you're like, oh, fuck. God damn it, Tobin Bell, why are you so scary? You know, that you're like, fuck. You know, whereas like this one, it's like, hello there. It's like Mrs. Doubtfire. Hello. Oh, I must look like a Yeti. Actually, that'd be great if it was like Mrs. Doubtfire. Mrs. Doubtfire's voice for the trap videos. That'd be hilarious. But anyway, with this one, like, also Billy the Puppet isn't in this. It's just like the pig thingy. So, sure. You know, but it's also funny because this movie is about cops, and then we're using pigs as, like, I guess symbolism, but I don't really think they're going, like, I don't think they're really going that hard, you know, like, the Saw movies were never about that, like, ooh, symbolism, you know, like, that kind of stuff, you know, like, when I was, like, watching this movie, and, like, I was thinking, like, the symbolism of it, and, like, you wouldn't understand, like, if it was less gory, this would totally be, like, an A24 movie, like, okay, freaking bitch, anyway, what else, but yeah, I also found it funny that, like, so we know, like, Chris Rock and Sam Jackson's in it. Initially going into the movie, I thought it was, like, Chris Rock and Sam Jackson are, like, cop buddies, and they gotta work together, da-da-da. And I'm like, cool, black leads, like, that's great for Saw and da-da-da. But it's like, Sam Jackson plays Chris Rock's dad, and I'm like, you guys are, like, I think I looked it up, they're like 17 years apart, and I'm like, I mean, granted, there are people whose parents are 17 years older than them, but I'm also kind of like, I'm not going to believe that Sam Jackson's your dad, Chris Rock, you know, although it was great, and then they got Sam Jackson to say the word motherfucker 1,000 times, which, you know, is required by law, so that was awesome, but other than that, yeah, like, it was definitely, it was, like, interesting. Again, I don't find this great, and I don't feel like any of these will really ever be as good as the first one. Because, you know, now you expect there to be a twist ending at the end, or like a whoo, blah, 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 kind of stuff. And I was able to kind of figure out what the twist ending was, and I'll get to that a little bit later. Because again, it's like you're expecting it, you know it's gonna come. It's like the end of like a Blumhouse movie where you're like, and the movie ends, and then there's gonna be a jump scare. Okay, oh my god, almost knocked over my drink, Jesus Christ. There goes my heart. Yeah, but you know, like, yeah, so there's like jump scare. Speaking of jump scare, that just happened. Yeah, jump scare, you know, oh, and then credits, thank you, Blumhouse, like that kind of stuff. Like, the special effects were great. It was done by, I think, what's their name, Mind Warp Effects, and I follow them, so yeah, it's really good stuff there. The peeling of skin and flesh and bones, all that, that was done really well. I didn't see too much of, like, CG done, although, like, I don't think, like, many of the Saw movies rely too heavily on the CG aspect. Most of the time, it was always practical effects, which, again, is, like, why movies, you know, like this kind of have a little bit more effectiveness with the, I guess you would say, the horror of things, you know, like, I know a lot of people don't like the Saw movies because it's like torture porn, but at the same time, it's like, sometimes you just want to see someone get a little fucked up, you know, it's you know, and it's fake, it's movie, it's fake, so it's okay, you're not crazy, I mean, I guess, says the special effects artist, but, yeah, so, anyway, I guess go further into the movie. So, the whole time it's like Chris Rock is just trying to, like, figure out all of these things. And so, like, the traps were, like, one, it was, like, the head of the police department, like, she just gets hot wax poured on her. And then Chris Rock is like, oh, no, you'll be fine. He pulls it and just, like, peels her skin. And I'm just like, oh, my God, it's so ridiculous. And there's one where, like, they like, put the cop's, like, fingers in a thing and starts pulling at it, like, ah! And the first one was like, this dude's like, his tongue was like on a clampy thing, and then he's like hanging there, and it was just like, alright, pull your tongue out, and then, but then like a train hits him, and it was like, because it was like, he drops from the chair, his tongue gets pulled, like, you know, all that stuff, and then the train hits him, and it's like, okay. The guy with the finger thing, it was just like, he did the thing, you know, where his fingers are being pulled, but then he didn't do it fast enough, and then he still got like electrocuted, like, you know, all that stuff. Then Chris Rock's partner gets skinned alive in like a slaughterhouse, yada yada yada. But then like that's when I was like, because usually whenever they show, like whenever they like find like a body or something, or find one of the traps, it then does like the flashback thing, you know, where they're like, and then this happened, and then that happened. But then that one they didn't really show, and they just kind of like moved along, my partner's dead, move on along, and I'm like, you know. Also, I love that the piece of flesh that, you know, was like, it was supposed to be like the partner's arm, because he has it like, you know, tattooed, was very like, they didn't blend the edges too well with the tattoo, because it was like obviously a temporary tattoo they put on the fleshy stuff, because the edges were starting to pick up, and I was like, someone could have just buffed the edges there, just buff the edges. Yeah, that was just like, I saw it, and it was really quick. It was a very like split-second thing. Of course I saw it. Yeah, effects artist here. So I saw it and I was like, oh, you could have just went like that on the sides, on the sides, you know. Anyway, so I was like, wow, God. And then, oh yeah, like Sam Jackson gets caught, because it's like, where has my dad been? They were trying to like, you know, the version thing, they were trying to say like the entire time it was like Sam Jackson who was doing this, and I'm like, it's not him. Like, maybe if you would have hired like a different actor to play his dad, you know, someone else, just any motherfucker, funny enough motherfucker, I would just be like, maybe. But I'm like, it's not Sam Jackson. I believe in my heart it is not Sam Jackson. You know? It's not Sam Jackson. So of course it's not Sam Jackson, but he's put in a trap that, like, you know, where he just has to bleed. It just bleed out of tubes, you know, and just, delicious. I'm just gonna bleed out of tubes, you know. But yeah, so there's a lot of that. Also, like, Chris Rock's character is, like, a lot smarter than the other cops, which is probably why he's the good cop, because whenever, like, he'll, like, read, like, a clue, and he's just like, wait a second. Like, he already is like, got it. You know, everyone else is like, what does that mean? What is this? And it's like, I don't know, dude, just like give yourself like a set. Also, none of this stuff is hard. You know, it's not like Riddler level stuff where you're like, you know, it's like actual stuff where you're like, where it was stuff like, what was it like, God, what was the one that was like a little Captain Obvious to like, when you're, oh yeah, when you're looking for something, you know, I'll go for your head, or something like, or more will die, or something like that. It was like very obvious that like they're talking about the head of the police, and we're gonna distract you by slicing this cop's arm, because then that's when you grab the head of the department to pour wax on her, you know. But Chris Rock is like, wait, voiceover, and he's like, I got it, you know. Everyone else is like, what do you mean? A cop's injured, that's what they want you to do. And then like Chris Rock's character is like, no, I got the brain thing. I'm a good detective solving the case. Like, but anyway, yeah. So I guess we'll get to the spoiler. We'll get to the twist, which is his partner, the young guy, the guy who was in that movie Art School Confidential. Throwback. He is the new Jigsaw, because the cop that he, as in Chris Rock, reported on that was a bad cop, shot this kid's dad like a decade ago or something like that. And you know, he's like, I love the part where he's like, do you know how hard it was for me to get to this precinct to be your partner? I was like, probably pretty hard, because aren't you like I'm not a cop, and I don't know anyone who's a cop in my family, but according to TV shows I watch, it's like you don't get to choose. You know what I mean? You just kind of go where you're assigned. So you don't just go like, I want to go to this precinct with this, you know, da-da-da. I mean, unless you, like, really have internal pull for that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I guess with any other job, you can't, you know. But yeah, he's like, do you know how hard it was for me, da-da-da? And it's like, oh, okay, honey. But I'm also kind of like, why are you upset at Chris Rock? You know? Like, part of it is like, yes, I get you're getting revenge on the bad cops. I get it. Yes, phone. You're getting revenge on the bad cops. I get it, because your dad was killed by a bad cop. But then it was like, it was like, let me be Chris Rock's partner and then fake my death so then he can find me? Like, that part was kind of like, huh? And also blaming it on his dad. I mean, his dad isn't Sam Jackson, because saying that it was his fault, but it was like, but like Sam Jackson is like more old school cop, so his was very much like, you don't rat out anyone. Also, if he's old school cop, he was probably like one of two, maybe he was the only black officer, so I get why he probably wasn't gonna open his damn mouth, you know, compared to now. Also, I love the flashback scenes when they know it's a flashback, because Sam Jackson has like a fucking mustache, and he's just like, he's like, this is the past, because I got a mustache, you know? And I love that Chris Rock has a goatee, and he's just like, this is the past. I have a nice, fresh, full, all black goatee. And then current now, he just has like a little chin scrub, and there's like you might see like some stubble, like salt and pepper, you know, because he's aged, you know, that kind of stuff. I always love flashback things, with movies, and I get it, like every Saw movie has pretty much been like, compared to other horror films, very low budget, very like, we gotta film in like 2 weeks, you know, kind of shit. So like, you know, like, it kind of, like, went back to its core, you know, guys. But I also love that, like, because Chris Rock is in the movie, I learned that Chris Rock is a huge fan of the Saw series, which is why he, like, wanted to make a Saw movie, and they're like, hey, you'll be the lead, and he's like, fuck yeah, you know? I do like that. Oh, yeah, there was one where, like, what was it, they were putting bottles in like a wood chipper, and it was just spraying glass on the back of this cop. I love that Chris Rock had like a metal trash can, and he's like a shield, and then like his face got, like, that was kind of silly looking. But that cop got fucked. Like, oh my god. I also like that they kind of brought it back with the whole, like, you're handcuffed to a pipe, and here's a hacksaw. And then he, you know, he's doing the thing where he looks at the hacksaw and he's like, fuck. Of course, you get the chains. But then he's just like, you see him being like, do I? On his arm. But then there was like a hairpin, like, on the floor. And I was like, please, okay. And he grabs a hairpin, you know. And again, that's when, you know, we all know that's on purpose, you know. If he panicked, he probably would have just fucking just cut his arm, and then, so, oh my god, could you imagine? You're like, and then you're like, there was a hairpin the whole time. That's my luck. Do something drastic and been like, there was a key there this whole time, you know? Not even a hairpin, a key. And it's like bright color too, you know? Ah, shit. But yeah, like, the boy being like, bringing back the Jigsaw stuff just to fuck with, just to kill cops. It just kind of like, that part kind of like fell. It was kind of like, oh, okay. Like, again, it's like this kind of story, I can see it as like, I can see it as obviously a non-Saw movie, you know? It could have just been any kind of like serial killer movie, any kind of like possible slasher, or just any kind of horror thing, revenge kind of movie. Like, it doesn't feel so out of the Saw universe, not like the later Hellraiser movies where we're just like, this is definitely a different horror film, and you just shoehorned like Pinhead into it, kind of stuff. Like, this still feels like it could be within universe. But again, it's like, I only like this one a little bit more than some of the other sequels, because again, Chris Rock does a really good job. You know, it's Chris Rock, so his comedic timing, his delivery of things, it's a different perspective too, because again, you're not just in the traps, and every so often cut back to, you know, the cops being like, there's a warehouse among this other sea of warehouses? Why didn't we check those? It's like, oh, for fuck's, you know, like that kind of stuff. You know, like, again, Sam Jackson's in it, he gets the same motherfucker 1,000 times. Yeah, the traps were definitely, they were different. They were definitely torturous. There was definitely a lot of blood and guts. Like I said, the effects were great and all that stuff. It's directed by Darren Lynn Bousman, so he did, like, the first batch of sequels, and I'm fine with what he does. It's all right. Like I said, it's all right. Like, again, I'm not expecting anything to be like the first one, because the first one's great. Anyway, yeah, Saw thingy, you know. I think I'm gonna try to watch Conjuring movie, and then I forgot A Quiet Place 2 had come out, so I'm gonna try to get to that as well. Yeah, and then there's like been some kind of like bunch of like stuff that came out on Netflix, which I don't really think I'm gonna be really reviewing that stuff because it's just like, unless it's either really good or really bad, because most of the stuff that comes out of Netflix, I'm just like, you know, thanks for the suggestion, guys. I just wasted my time. Thanks. But anyway, see you.